Well, hello. I'm really excited this morning that I have the chance to talk with Ashley Koff, who is a nationally recognized dietitian and CEO of the Better Nutrition Program. And just yesterday, you were on this national or I guess global summit of integrative practitioners talking about the root cause nutrition assessment and how to personalize that. And today, we're going to talk a little bit more about nutrition and how that's important for people either who have addictions or trying to kind of cut down on substances, and maybe even the families that work with them. So I'm going to just start off with letting you just kind of like introduce yourself maybe a little bit more, and then we'll dive in.
Thanks, Mark. And for those of you that don't know, I typically reside in Ohio. So Mark and I are also sort of neighbors. And I did not grow up in Ohio thinking that I was going to be a dietitian. In fact, I grew up very focused on working in advertising. For those of you that are my age, you'll know I wanted to be Angela Bauer from Who's the Boss. So she was my idol and role model. So I went about going to university and then going to New York City to work in advertising, and I sold sugared cereals to America and told them how good they are for them. That was, my path has definitely not been a linear one to helping people from a health standpoint. But I also want to share, because like so many of you, what led me to where I am today, it is very personal. So I was a child who didn't know it. It turned out that I had digestive issues, and that was really keeping me from most of the goals that I had. And including in my 20s, really crippling me with anxiety, with panic attacks, with sleep issues, leading to some not healthy behaviors. And I never knew that. I thought I just had a belly. I thought I wasn't good at dieting. I really never put it to my digestion. And so one of the reasons I start with that is, in the name of better digestion, I did some really trying to fix myself and go out on, I tried, going to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "You're healthy. It's totally fine. It's up here. You need to work up here." Well, I did need to work up there, but as I worked up there, I still didn't get better down here, in my belly. And so I went on this horrible 7-day goat's milk cleanse where I drank only goat's milk for 7 days, 40 ounces of goat's milk. Oh, horrible.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was so desperate to feel well that I had gone to somebody who had no medical background, no business, doing this piece, but had told me, literally pricked my finger, took a blood test and told me I had a worm and I needed to kill it with the drinking goat's milk only. So I want to share that with you because I've been really desperate to be healthy. And as a healthcare practitioner today, and somebody who's been doing this for 20 years, one of the things that is so foundational to our health, and in fact, I think it's the thing that's so foundational to our health, is better digestion. So wherever you are on your path, I just want to understand my passion and the fact that it's personal, and why, with Mark, I always talk about it's so important for us to start with really helping people have better digestion when we're trying to achieve any health goal.
Right. And I'm so glad that you shared the personal pieces as well as focusing on how important that digestive piece is, because I do a lot of talking to people up here, but
Yeah.
it's also important that we talk about what we eat and absorb. So let's talk about some of the main nutritional issues that people who are either trying to get sober or heal from drug abuse, what kind of concerns do they have to deal with?
Yeah. So, and it's interesting. I was just doing a TV segment on how our thoughts impact our digestion, but also how our digestion impacts our thoughts.
Absolutely.
So, at any place when we're dealing with addiction and when we're trying to change habits, right? Change behaviors, change responses, change coping mechanisms, all of these things, it's so important that we understand and we assess where our digestion is, because when our digestion is not good, and when we're not digesting and absorbing foods properly, it can make it really difficult for us to take those first steps, or consistently take those steps to better choices. So let me give you an example. If I didn't get a good night's sleep and I wake up and I'm really tired, my body is going to say, "Hey, Ashley, I've got two awesome ideas for you: caffeine and sugar." Because caffeine and sugar are going to make you, they're going to help you wake up, and they're going to help you focus, and they're going to help you give that energy, right? And that's, our bodies know, they respond to those foods, the nutrients, if you will. Caffeine is a stimulant, sugar is a stimulant. And so when we're trying to, that's an example right there of, I would be turning to those things and saying like, okay, let me have those. So what I need to work on is, how do I get a better night's sleep? Or said differently, in the morning when I'm feeling that way, how do I make choices that are better for my body and for my digestion at that point? If you are someone who has struggled with addiction, if you're in recovery right now, first of all, I want to say congratulations. I'm so proud of you. And I want you to know that taking care and focusing on your digestion will make things easier. I'm not saying any part of this is going to be easy, but it will make it easier, because your digestion, when it's running and working better and has what it needs, it's going to not send signals that could trigger you to say, uh-oh, I need something to, I need a substance to help me on that part. So what we're talking about there is, for example, our digestive tract is a muscle. And like any muscle, we have contraction and we have relaxation, right? So it's meant to move. When our digestive muscle is not moving, we are constipated. We're backed up. We're not going, right? When we're not going, it's really difficult to feel comfortable in our own skin. We can feel bloated. We just feel uncomfortable. It can actually contribute to anxiety and to feeling just really stressed out, or stress can be the trigger, and it's like this back and forth. So one of the things that we look at from a digestive assessment standpoint is, how is that motility happening? How are you doing? How is that movement happening? And if we're backed up, we want to look at nutrients like magnesium that will help with that muscle relaxation, which can help you feel better. And so when you're feeling better, it is easier. Notice I'm not saying it's easy. It is easier to make those better choices. And by the way, everyone, not people with addiction, not people in recovery, everyone today struggles with digestive issues. Stress is a factor that will impact our digestion. There's a lot of stress going around, et cetera. So one of the reasons that I want to have this conversation is, this is not something that you need to be doing while you're in recovery. This is something we always need to be doing. It's just something we want to highlight, because for persons dealing with addiction or going through recovery, it often isn't talked about, and it's so valuable for helping you be more successful.
Thank you so much for that. You mentioned magnesium specifically. Isn't that also helpful to optimize our body's just response to stress? So not just for the gut.
Yeah. And we don't get to pick it apart, right? So our body's response to stress is happening in the gut. So when our body experiences stress, our fight or flight reaction happens, right? We were designed that way. It was really smart design, because it means that our body moves attention away from our digestion, and it moves it to our eyes and our big muscles, so we can run away from the lions, tigers, and bears, right? Oh my. And so what we're thinking about at this point is, when we have that stress, there's so many life stressors. And in fact, there are things that you may be choosing to do right now that are actually adding stress, but in a good way. So if you're choosing to exercise, if you're choosing to do push-ups, if you're lifting weights, if you're doing yoga, these kinds of things, we're still doing contraction in there. And so we have to do that relaxation. And so that stress response is directly related to your digestion, because if our digestion is not getting the attention that it needs, no matter what nutrients you're taking in, they're not getting where they need to go, and we're not eliminating the things that need to be eliminated. So it's so important, Mark. You're absolutely right. That stress and that digestive response are integrally linked. And what's great about it is, there is a nutrient, magnesium, which, by the way, is found in dark chocolate, or it's found in cacao, right? Like, come on. It's also found in delicious things. When we change from eating white bread or refined white flour to just having wheat bread, or if we eat whole oats, when we make those upgrades, we're actually increasing our magnesium as much as 70%. So that magnesium is something that 70% of adults in America aren't even getting in enough magnesium, which means we're not giving our body, basically our body every day is saying, I have to figure out what part of me gets to be unstressed and what part stays stressed, right? That's not a game we want to be playing. We want to make sure we're giving our body enough of what it needs to address stress and healthy digestion.
So you said, well, we don't want our body to have to choose like which part of the
Yeah.
body to send the nutrients to. So is that kind of the role for supplements, to be able to help fill the gap for the body?
Really great question. I like to say that there are three roles for supplements. First of all, by definition, a supplement is supplemental to the nutrition you take in from food. So let me be really clear. If you're going to junk food diet and then take supplements, you can't override with supplements. You can't just say like, oh, I'm going to just take supplements and not improve my diet. However, especially as we go through and we're working on recovery, there's a lot of things that we're dealing with. So let's say that you're not eating and making the healthiest choices. You're going to have gaps in your diet. There might have been times where you weren't even really eating food, or you were just taking in, beverages or chips or things like that that weren't giving you a lot of nutrition. We can start to upgrade our nutrition. We can start to fill those gaps with supplements. The other things that supplements can do is they can help us correct imbalances that may have been created based on what we like to eat, or maybe what you've been noticing, or maybe you've even been diagnosed that there are foods that you need to avoid or consume less of. And so we can start to correct that imbalance and create a better balance with supplements. And then there's a third category that's what we'll call therapeutic use. Now, you may be on certain medications, and if you're on certain medications, then Mark or a dietitian like myself may turn around and say to you, hey, it's a good idea that you get this nutrient in from a supplement because your medication may interfere with or make it more difficult for your body to absorb certain nutrients. And that could be something as simple as birth control. We have women who are on birth control at different stages in life, and it makes it harder for our body to absorb B vitamins. Well, B vitamins are really important for anxiety and for our mental health and for our energy. So we may actually need to increase our supplement intake there. Maybe you're somebody who's pre-diabetic or has diabetes and you're dealing with blood sugar imbalances. Those B vitamins are really important there as well. But also there are nutrients like green tea and alpha lipoic acid. And look, I might tell you to drink green tea, but what if we're not drinking green tea every day? If we take it in a supplement form, then we're going to get it in consistently. It's like cinnamon. I love cinnamon, but I don't eat cinnamon every day, but in taking it in a supplement, it's going to help my blood sugar and my blood sugar regulation on a daily basis. Now, why am I talking about that as it relates to somebody who is dealing with addiction and recovery? One of the things that's really important to know is that when we have turned to substances that have been doing that they've been doing things to our body, right? They've helped us feel a certain way or things like that. What we want to start to do is re-engage our body to be empowered to do those reactions without those substances. So in the same way that caffeine or a cigarette could help us to go move our bowels because it's a contractor, we're now going to use magnesium that's going to help us with that relaxation, that's going to help balance out that contraction and that relaxation. And likewise, if we've used certain drugs in the past that have provided a stimulant benefit, they may have been impacting our body's blood sugar regulation, our metabolism of sugar. And so now we're turning to substances in the nutrient form, the way that we want to get them as a supplement to help us there.
So are there other, we talked a lot about magnesium, is there other specific supplements that you would say like, hey, I mean, obviously, and you gave a whole talk about how we got to personalize all of this, but some general recommendations that people might benefit from?
Absolutely. And I've shared some with you, and I know you use them in your practice, where to sort of my go-tos for tuning up digestion, right? And I think we always need to be tuning up our digestion. So the magnesium is one of them. We have skin, the lining of our digestive tract is like our skin. And so what we want to think about there is it needs to function in the same way that our skin functions. It wants to protect us by keeping things that should be inside us inside, and keeping things that should not come inside of us outside. And it also needs to help us with the elimination. Well, our skin and our digestive tract lining does the same thing. So there's a nutrient, it's an amino acid called glutamine. There's another one called glycine, but I'm going to focus on glutamine right now, that is what we call conditionally essential. In order to, we want to use it, it's the easy way to think about it is glue, like glue and glutamine. And so it's going to do is help to glue back that lining that may have been coming apart, which has created more leakiness and hasn't had the lining be as protective as we need it to be. That's really important also for your immune system, because that's where a lot of our immune reaction happens. So glutamine is another one that I like to focus on. And I like to, whenever I'm having people bring in nutrients, I always look for the biggest bang for our buck. So if I can add others in at the same time. So there's something called deglycyrrhizinated licorice and aloe. And those are both also really good for helping to coat the lining of that digestive tract. And so for people who maybe have had acid reflux or irritation in their digestive tract lining, and aloe is also very soothing. So that combination with the glutamine is one of my favorites. And then adding on top of that, we also hear about probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics are not something that we want to go buy a candy bar and grab it from a probiotic standpoint. And at the same time, we think about probiotics and we're told like eat yogurt, but yogurt actually doesn't, most yogurt, the majority of yogurt doesn't contain a really important strain of probiotic called bifidobacteria that's important for our overall digestive health. So that might be where a supplement is helpful in addition to yogurt. Maybe the yogurt actually isn't that good quality and maybe you're not choosing to have dairy, so there are a lot of reasons on that front. And then there's a final one, and this is my favorite. I always share it for the end because if I was to ask anybody want a personal assistant right now to help you get things done in your life, I think we'd all be like, oh my gosh, how many hands can I put in the air, right? And your digestive tract is saying the same thing. Look, we're not always good at chewing our food enough to break things down, but even further, once food goes into our body is meant to go through additional like chewing basically to break nutrients down, big food down into usable nutrients. And if they don't get into that usable format, they're not easily absorbed even in a healthy digestive system. So that's the role of digestive enzymes. It's one of my favorite things. I would use it for anyone, both when we're experiencing stress, maybe if we have overeaten, maybe if we're now trying to eat foods that we didn't eat, but that maybe like it's something different than what we're normally used to eating, but also as we're trying to heal our digestive system, that's going to give us that extra help. So digestive enzymes would be another one that I would include as that personal assistant for our digestion.
Okay. Yeah, I would like a personal assistant.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't, right? Yeah.
Well, I want to ask one more question because you talked about how Ashley might wake up and say, well, do I want caffeine or sugar? I have lots of clients who wake up and it's nicotine. And
Yeah.
so can you give us a little bit of how can nutrition help support somebody who is trying to stop smoking?
Absolutely. I love this one. And I know you have your Sit to Quit, and I absolutely love this program. And the idea of incorporating nutrition on top of that is like, hey, I'm going to set this time frame. Okay, if I'm setting this time frame and I know I'm going to quit, then as I'm setting this time frame, let's start working on digestion and try these quick tips to make it easier, right? We want to make it as easy as possible to be successful. And so actually the nutrients I was just talking about, magnesium is going to be really helpful because when we are smoking, it actually is going in and helping our body's motility. That's what many of us really struggle to quit smoking because as soon as we stop smoking, we feel constipated or we actually experience constipation. So that magnesium is going to play a really important role. I sometimes also too will have people do liquid nutrition, in the morning, maybe have a smoothie or something like that. It could just be easier, on that front. And on the flip side, I actually, when we're quitting smoking, that's not the time to start a bunch of fiber in your diet because it could actually make you feel more bloated. So stick with the magnesium, and you can get that in a supplement form. And I actually usually recommend a powdered form of a specific type, either a glycinate or a citrate, or I really love a blend of them. But I like it in the powder form because then you add it to water. One, getting in that water is going to be really helpful for you. But number two, it's going to be easily absorbed. So that's great from a smoking standpoint. Now, the addition from a smoking standpoint, remember I was talking about sugar before. One of the things that happens a lot of times we're nervous or we stop and we start smoking again because we're afraid that when we quit smoking, we're going to gain weight. So one of the things that we want to understand is that first of all, that initial weight gain can come from if your digestion is not working better, but we also want to be careful about how much sugar we're turning to in terms of added sugar. So one of the recommendations that I'll make if we're switching is to already have things that are small pieces that are sweet. And the reason that I'm talking talking about small pieces is that I want to make sure that you get to put a lot of stuff in your mouth, because that'll keep you too busy to put a cigarette in your mouth, right? So I love berries for that. I buy frozen berries, put them in the refrigerator. You can pop the berries. You can even eat them frozen. Maybe you like grapes, you could do that. Maybe you like popcorn. Popcorn's another one that we can do pieces, or nuts. Nuts and seeds, or even, remember I told you how chocolate is a good source of magnesium? You could make a trail mix, and you could put chocolate chips in the trail mix with a cereal and with some nuts and seeds, and that could give you something, to be getting in when you're trying to quit smoking. So that and the whole digestive tune-up are going to be really helpful as you're going through that quitting smoking process.
Awesome. Well, I love that you took some time out of your day to share this with me and my clients, because I know they're going to find this incredibly helpful, because there's just so much information that people get bombarded with, and we forget the simplest things that we have to start with, which is just what we put in our body. And so thank you for this, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. Look forward to talking to you soon.
I so appreciate it. And I just want to say to all of you, I am so proud of the efforts that you are making. And this information is super valuable to your loved ones as well. So if there are people in your life that are battling stress or dealing with their own nutrition or any of these pieces, please feel free to share this as well. What also makes it easier for you to stick with it, whether it's tuning up your digestion, which we need to do regularly. We don't just do it, once and are done with it. I recommend at least once a quarter. This is something that you guys can do together, and that they're going to know is going to be improving your outcomes and your success, but also is going to be seeing major improvements for them too. So everybody gets to win. So thanks, Mark, for letting me.
Such a good point. And I am so glad that you brought that, because I deal so much with family members.
Yeah.
They're stressed, and so
Yes.
their body needs to be optimized for their response to stress as well. And
Right.
so it's really important for them. I appreciate that. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for spending time with us today.
You bet. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.